Good morning, everybody. Welcome to session 3 of the OBWB Source Water Protection webinar series. Today, we're going to be hearing from 4 panelists and learning from Indigenous-led partnerships and projects. I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that I'm hosting this webinar on the traditional unceded territory of the Okanagan Syilx people. I'm based in Kelowna, and I know we have people joining us from all across BC and Ontario and even Quebec. So I'd encourage you to take a moment to think about and acknowledge the traditional territories you are joining from. So today, we'll start with a quick introduction from me. And then we'll hear about 2 Indigenous-led initiatives that are protecting watersheds and advancing habitat restoration and recovery. And then we'll have some time at the end for a question and answer. A few housekeeping items. Webinars are recorded and posted at sourcewaterprotectiontoolkit.ca webinars. We've got PD and training credits available for this webinar series through PIBC, and I'm in the process of getting EOCP approval for CEUs. So hopefully by next week, we'll have that in place, and those will be available retroactively. And I just want to encourage you to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to submit questions at any time during the webinar. Last week, we did run out of time for a formal Q&A, so panelists were kind of answering questions on the fly during the presentations, and that worked out well. I do hope this time we'll have a formal Q&A, but I do encourage you to submit questions at any time, and we'll either answer them during the webinar or we can get back to you afterwards as well. So a big thank you to all of the many people who are part of the Source Water Protection Toolkit project and developing these webinars. So we had a really stellar technical advisory committee with folks from all different types of organizations. We've had funding from different municipalities, from the OBWB, and most recently through the Healthy Watersheds Initiative, and also Interior Health. So thank you very much to all the funders and all of the people who have been part of this Source Protection Toolkit journey over the last couple of years and part of these webinars. And just a reminder, this webinar is part of a nine session series. And next week, we're going to have 5 folks from Ontario actually join us and talk about how 3 different layers of organizations, the provincial, and then the Conservation Ontario, and then the a few conservation authorities are working together across the province to bring consistency to education and outreach to raise awareness and stewardship of watersheds. So that'll be a very interesting session next week. I hope you can join us. And then just a reminder about the other upcoming sessions. So after next week, we'll have 5 more sessions. And we've added a few presenters to the roster, so this looks a little bit different than last week. So just have a quick look and see what's coming up the next few weeks here. So the Source Water Protection Toolkit itself is this document here. And it's made up of an introduction and then 3 parts. So the first part clarifies and simplifies the source protection planning process. So it's a very practical section that's focused to water suppliers who will prepare source protection plans. Part 2 is the action part of the toolkit. So it has 8 tools that are featured in part 2 and 35 different case studies that are used to highlight different examples of who are currently using these tools in part 2. And then part 3 is a very massive addendum sort of thing to the toolkit that provides additional information on regulatory framework, economic benefits of source water protection, common threats to drinking water and how to overcome them, many links to other resources that are already out there, and then 3 templates for water suppliers and their consultants to use to create source water assessments and protection plans. So in my view, water is a key aspect of reconciliation. And most, if not all, local governments and water suppliers now recognize that they are operating in traditional and unceded territories. I think building relationships is central to this, and local governments and water suppliers can play a very important role in building those positive relationships through very practical things like joint economic development initiatives, MOUs, project partnerships, joint committees, etc. So we have a really good opportunity. Many people at this Zoom webinar are from local governments and water suppliers, improvement districts, etc. So I think that source protection planning processes are strengthened if we can include Indigenous values, knowledge, and leadership from the very beginning of the process. So today I'd like to give a warm welcome to our 4 panelists. From the Cowichan Watershed Board, we have Dr. Shannon Waters. Shannon is Coast Salish and a member of the Chemainus First Nation on Vancouver Island. She is currently working in her home territory as the local medical health officer with Island Health. And here to speak about the Kemchiniqua floodplain re-engagement project, we have Michael Bezener, Wendy Hawks, and Maryssa Bonneau. Michael is the Okanagan Center's Eco Community Program Manager and manages the Locati Lands Project, a habitat protection and caretakership project on the Penticton Indian Reserve. Wendy is Smilkmich Silk Woman, currently serving in the role of Timikswa biologist for Penticton Indian Band Natural Resources Department. And Maryssa is a member of the Syilx Nation who works for the Penticton Indian Band as the referrals coordinator. So welcome to all of you. And I would like to now invite Dr. Shannon Waters to give her presentation.
Sure, thanks. Can people see my slides here?
You just put it in presentation mode, which that's excellent. Thank you.
All right. Hi, Kelly. And yeah, just so grateful to be here with people interested on this topic that is so near and dear to my heart in terms of watershed protection and how it is so crucial to all of our well-being and our health. So I'm going to share with you a bit about how I am part of Natsamat Kwisiayas Thaka. And this is how we come together as a whole to work together to be stronger as partners for the watershed within the Cowichan Valley. So I am calling you here, I'm zooming in today from my home territory, my Hulkamitnam home territory. As had been described, I'm a member of Chemainus First Nation, which is one of the Hulkamitnam communities of which this home territory here is a map of. So I'm a member of Chemainus First Nation, and I also have many family ties to Cowichan tribes. So those are the 2 emblems in the bottom left-hand corner here of this map. Cowichan tribes, the one on the top, and Chemainus being the one on the bottom. So I am calling from a place called Tecletnuts, which is also known as Maple Bay. That's where the star is located on the map. So I am have the honor, privilege, and challenge of working within the health authority system, within the provincial government system as a medical health officer within my home territory. And this map here is a representation of the different relationships, of the different connections we have as Hulkamitnam people with the territory that is our home. So you can see here that Cowichan Lake is mentioned, the rivers, Gordon River, the Cowichan River. So water being a very integral part, a connector throughout all of our home territory. I briefly mentioned I'm a medical health officer. I think during COVID, a lot more people have become familiar with what a medical health officer is. But just to say a bit more, I have roles in areas such as health protection, which includes things such as environmental health and the healthy built environment. I have roles in disease and injury prevention and control, disaster and emergency management, health promotion, population health assessment, and health and disease surveillance. And as a Hulkmeetnam woman, I actually see watershed protection as being integral to virtually all of these roles that I have as a medical health officer. It might not necessarily be deemed in the way that job descriptions are written up or way the legislation is currently coined, but I feel all of these roles that I have to help protect the population, of which the health of the population, which I see to include humans, but also animals, plants, the water, the land within my home territory area. Watershed protection is crucial to all of these elements. And this is, largely due in fact to the way I view health and wellness. And this image here is a depiction of a perspective on health and wellness for First Nations people. In the past, I'd actually worked at the First Nations Health Authority, and this depiction had been created in collaboration between First Nations Health Authority and the communities. And it's something I come back to again and again in my work. I feel if I can find my work placed within this perspective, then I'm focusing my energy in the right areas. And really here, I wanted to focus today on the yellow circle, and that's our overarching values that support and uphold our wellness. So here you'll see wisdom, respect, responsibility, and relationships. And all these aspects are important in the green circle with our family, community, nations, and the land. And the land is, inclusive of the earth, the water, the plants, the air, and really to be well, I have to have, respect the wisdom of these aspects and also uphold my responsibility and my relationships. I think because of some of the ways that we view our interconnection and our responsibility, that has been part of our many, teachings for generations upon generations upon generations, is now being seen within the wider milieu to be critically important at this, critical time that we're in. This is a report from the Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services portion for the United Nations. And this was a summary that was put together for policymakers. And it really struck me that this was a report that was put together by over 500 authors across the world. And it came out in November of 2019, not long before we were dealing collectively with COVID. And it showed there was a number of recommendations that are quite striking. One being that nature is generally declining less rapidly in Indigenous peoples' lands than in other lands, and that also governance, including customary institutions and management systems and co-management regimes that involve Indigenous peoples and local communities, can be an effective way to safeguard nature. So now, our ways of viewing the world and our ability to be sovereign in our ways of viewing the world are being seen as being protective for the earth and for, the critical time we're finding ourselves in collectively. The findings of this UN report were actually very much spoken to in work done in 2005 by Hulkmeetnam Treaty Group. So this is by communities within my home territory, where it was spoken to very strongly that our lawmaking authority will empower us to be the architects of a sustainable future for our lands. We're not of the land, we are the land. The health, the well-being of our home territory, of the waters is critical. It is our health, it's not separate. And one of the means years after this report was written that I was able to have the honor, privilege, and challenge of playing out my responsibility in my relationships to the waters within my home territory was in being invited to be a member of the Cowichan Watershed Board. So I've been on the Watershed Board for 3 years now. I came into this role about 1.5 years after I'd started as the medical health officer for the Cowichan Valley region. Many of you may know about the Cowichan Watershed Board. It is now over a decade old. It was coined to bring decision makers together who were local and connected to the well-being of the Cowichan watershed after some periods of really devastating drought that were particularly impacting many things, but particularly our salmon that we're also deeply connected to. So this watershed board is co-chaired by Cowichan tribes in the Cowichan Valley Regional District. We haven't had a chance to meet really at all in person since COVID. So this is a picture with one of our co-chairs that's a bit outdated. This was Ian Morrison, the previous chair of the Cowichan Valley Regional District. Sitting next to, on his left, the two seated in the front is Chief Chip Seymour, the chief of Cowichan tribes. So the chief of Cowichan tribes and the chair of the Cowichan Valley Regional District co-chair the Cowichan Watershed Board. And I'll just put up this diagram of how the Watershed Board is structured, because it was really at the beginning very much thought out about what the governance of this looks like. And so we have two entities, Cowichan tribes and the Cowichan Valley Regional District. And it's not that Cowichan tribes gains authority from being at this board in terms of making decisions around the water. Cowichan tribes brings authority, the unextinguished rights and title of being in their home territory, and they're accountable to chief and council. The CVRD brings authority delegated by the province, local government acts, and they're accountable to the CVRD board of directors. So there's appointees based from both of those key organizations. Then there's provincial nominees, federal nominees, and then members at large. And I circled one of those in red because I am a member at large at this table, jointly appointed by the chief of Cowichan tribes and the chair of the Cowichan Valley Regional District. And then we also have our executive director, Tom Rutherford, who is going to be here today, but is getting dental surgery. So I was pinch hitting for him. And we also have a number of technical advisory committees. And these advisory committees are based off targets that we set ourselves as the Cowichan Watershed Board. And then we have working groups that were created around each of those targets. So you can see along the bottom there, fish and flows, water quality, estuarine and public health, riparian health, outreach and education, and watershed conservation. Now, about 8 years into the Cowichan Watershed Board being in existence, there was a review, there was a governance review that was undertaken to see if the board was really operating with the intents of what it meant to be co-chaired at the time, 8 years or roughly 10 years before when the board was formed. And at that time, there was a look, and we had one of the previous chiefs of Cowichan tribes who was integral in bringing the board together, help us and look at how we really intertwine and make fundamental Cowichan tribes, statements and inherent rights and language. So here you can see here some of this Hokmitnam language that is now right within our governance manual, recognizing our existing inherent rights, and also as told through time by our ancestors that the waters, the land, seas, mineral, air, and all elements are interconnected within the territories provided for and can provide a good sustainable life for Cowichan peoples. So with that bit of background context, what does this look like, 10, 11 years on now in terms of what are we working on as the Cowichan Watershed Board? And what does it look like when we have this co-management, co-chair, co-decision making with Cowichan tribes and the Cowichan Valley Regional District? I think we've had a lot more work that was really working to bring about that connection, that responsibility, that relationship we have with the watershed within this beautiful place we get to live. And so what that looks like is when we're doing endeavors such as water quality monitoring, looking at flow development, habitat restoration, and things such as salmon stock assessment, that is people getting in the river, being around the river. Here you can see a depiction of times of year when the river is not flowing. Sections of it are dry. Being connected to the river in the good times and the bad and the sad times, seeing some of the very unfortunate fish die-offs, but getting that connection and building that relationship that sustains us, sustains the watershed, and is beneficial for the health of all of us beings living here. What this has also looked like recently is fueling a lot of work that is going towards raising or rebuilding of the Cowichan Weir. We are fortunate to have Cowichan Lake, which serves as a reservoir for the Cowichan River. And we have had capacity to store water, but what we see going on with climate change is that capacity is no longer deep enough or big enough for the long, hotter, drier summers that we're experiencing. And so we have been successful in securing some funding through the Salmon Innovation Fund to do a design concept. Here you can see a depiction, a picture of what that looks like right now. We've undergone an engineering and feasibility and design work earlier on in this year, and we're having a quantitative assessment of upstream impacts early next year. We have a facilitated process to identify a license holder for this weir that will be going on in 2022. And that's through funding through Infrastructure Canada. And we have so far solidified 12 million in federal infrastructure funding for construction, and we have an estimated cost of 20 to 23 million. So this is really exciting work that has really been just so fundamental to being, having Cowichan tribes there at the table, putting this work forward. The last thing I'll say in terms of what this looks like most recently is the Cook-Sila Water Sustainability Plan. So here you can see previous Minister Donaldson and Chief Seymour signing an interim letter of agreement around this in 2020. Cowichan tribes and Flynn Road staff have been working hard on that process for the past 16 months. And we are now, bringing forward recommendations to the chief and the minister in this regard. So this is really unprecedented work. So another river within the Cowichan watershed, the Cowichan River having Cowichan Lake, which can act as storage for the dry times. Cook-Sila River in a very different situation, largely sourced by snowpack, so in a very different situation in the times we're in. So different methods being looked at to sustain this river. Yeah, so in closing, I just want to say, Haitsapka, thank you all for listening, and certainly happy to take any questions that may come up after. And yeah, I just really want to say, I think one of the amazing things about this work is that through being Indigenous-led, watershed protection becomes so much more holistic than it might be otherwise. This picture of my home territory, the river, the ecosystem, it in fact is our health system. We are with that perspective, we have a different reverence, I think the ability to have different responsibility and relationships in really protecting our water sources as the basic foundation for our health and well-being. So, Haitsapka.
Thank you very much, Dr. Waters. That was an excellent presentation. Really appreciate it. And now I'd like to invite Michael and Wendy and Maryssa to, I think Michael has a PowerPoint prepared, I'm not sure. Michael, you can share your screen if you'd like.
Hi, everyone.
There he is.
Just trying to update my screen here. There we go. Great. So share screen, where do I find that here? Share screen, perfect. So welcome everyone. My name is Michael Bezener. I'm a conservation ecologist, biologist, working with the Okanagan Center in Penticton. I wasn't born in the Okanagan, so I consider myself a guest in unceded Seal territory. And I've always been passionate about protecting biodiversity, Indigenous biodiversity, and helping to repair the damage that human beings have caused to the land. So this project that we're going to present to you today is really a dream come true for me to be a part of. Wendy Maryssa, is there anything you wanted to mention just really quickly in introducing yourselves?
I can go next. I just wanted to thank everyone for inviting us to the table to share our experiences and hopefully help everyone grow and learn from them.
Maryssa?
Yep. So my CC Mac. I just want to thank Michael for presenting this PowerPoint, and I look forward to talking more a little bit later on. Thank you, Michael.
Great, Lim. Can everybody see the title screen here?
We can see it, Michael, but we can also see your next slide. It doesn't seem to be in the presentation mode.
Okay, let's see if I can change that.
If not, it's okay the way you had it. We'll just keep our view to the left for this slide.
Let's see here. Mode. So it's been a while. I've actually been outside for most of the year, and I haven't.
No worries.
Very much.
No worries. It might just be popping up on a different screen. Sometimes when you open your presentation, it goes to a different screen, so it's not sharing on the correct screen. So let's just go from here, Michael. This is okay. We can see your slides, and I think that's going to be just fine.
Okay. Sounds
Okay.
good.
No problem.
How's that?
That's
Ooh. Ah.
okay. That's looking good now.
All right,
Yep.
great. Just have to get back to the beginning.
Yep. That's the right view now. So you just go back
Okay.
to it. Okay, excellent. There you go. You're all set.
Yeah, thanks for your patience. So today we'd like to present on our Cowichan floodplain reengagement project. Cowichan translates loosely to alongside the water. This is a floodplain reengagement project designed to help support the restoration of habitats for Chinook salmon fry, a variety of species at risk, and indigenous biodiversity. The project is a partnership between the Okanagan Nation Alliance Fisheries Department, the Penticton Indian Band, and the Okanagan Center, supported by a wide range of partners, which I'll share with you later. Essentially, our project is pretty much through the construction phase and into the terrestrial habitat planting and restoration phase. These two slides show a picture of the site prior to initiation of our project. So this is going back to 2011. We very quickly, within a couple of years, have transformed it into this beautiful floodplain. Our project is located in Penticton and Pentaton on the lands of the Penticton Indian Reserve #1. It's part of a complex of protected areas. The Okanagan Center has been partnering with the Bandon and Lokati landowners over many years. We call the E-Community Place Lokati lands. So these connect a number of parcels throughout the historic floodplain of the Okanagan River on the west side of the Penticton Channel. And so you can see highlighted in orange here the area that we're specifically looking at for the project. There are a couple of key messages for our project. And so one is, when the Okanagan River was channelized in the 1950s and the dam was put on the outlet of the Okanagan River, it dramatically changed the hydrology, the ecology, and the cultural use of these areas. Resulted in a loss of 50% of the river length throughout the South Okanagan. It has also resulted in a 93% loss in riparian wetland habitats throughout the South Okanagan. And then channelization and installation of the dam essentially dropped the water table level by 3 meters, which is taller than I stand, or taller than I can reach. And so that's had some dramatic influences on how the water flows and how it supports the ecosystem and people. This particular floodplain re-engagement project is designed to re-engage about 8,800 square meters of historical floodplain in riparian area, specifically to support the fry rearing stage for Chinook salmon, and also to support the recovery of a number of species at risk that are listed federally or provincially, and then also help recover the indigenous biodiversity that has supported Seal people and the ecosystem for thousands of years. This project enacts the shared Seal vision and guidance from the late Chiefs Albert Saddleman and various elders that have given us our instructions to put the river back, bring the fish back, mainly salmon, but many of the other fish species that people and the ecosystem rely on. And then in addition to that, to put the people back. And by that, they mean, I think primarily Seal people, bringing Seal people back as the caretakers of the land. But I believe it is also a call to all people that either live or visit the Okanagan to engage in this collaborative process of making things right, both for the ecosystem and for Seal people. I'll go through the timeline of the project. Main construction works were completed this past spring in January, February. And we're now engaged in the terrestrial habitat revegetation phase. And as you'll see later on, I'll show you, the timeline of activities that we've gone through. So this is a view of what our project area looked like prior to the dam being installed and channelization of the river. So you can see in the distance here, this is the Okanagan River, flowing southward, meandering through the valley bottom. Much of the area to the east of our project site were the lungs of the lake and the river system. In terms of source water protection, these lowland riparian areas are absolutely fundamental to cleaning the water, making it healthy not only for other plants and animals, but for people as well. And then on the west side of our project site, you can see it was largely water birch dogwood swamp. This is the old Kettle Valley Railway Bridge that is just it's about 100 meters south of our project site. And then further downstream, as the river slowly drained into Skaha Lake, it was just lined with cottonwoods, black cottonwoods, and water birch and willows, and a variety of indigenous plants that overarched the river. Both the canopy would attract insects that would fall in the river and feed baby salmon. They would shade the river to keep it cool for baby salmon and for spawning salmon. And then of course the roots would penetrate into the river under the water line to provide cover for young fish that needed that shelter to grow up, to get big and strong and make their way to the ocean. When the river was channelized, of course, without the consent of Indigenous communities, all of that was destroyed. So this project's really trying to answer the call to bring back the river, and not just the river itself, but the river floodplains that are a part of the river ecosystem. Floodplains have a very specific role and responsibility, as do human beings, and floodplains clean the water. They also take up that excess water that flows in high water years, and they become the nurseries for young fish, amphibians, and a wide range of other creatures. Over 80% of all species, all animal species that use the Okanagan rely on floodplain habitats at some point in their life cycle. And so with channelization of the river and destroying those habitats, it's had a significant impact on all biodiversity here in the Okanagan. So this project really aims at restoring that. You can see this is sort of a GIS rendering of our project area during this was mapped following the first stage of construction. And you can see in the light blue, the areas that we expected to flood every 2 years. In high water years like we had in 2015, we're expecting floodwaters to reach all the way back and around the corner here. There is a culvert, concrete box culvert that connects the Penticton channel flow, which flows from the north to the south. Back flooding occurs through this culvert and into our floodplain. And then the various other colors are just representative of our early thoughts on how we might go about replanting the site to meet objectives for other species. And you can see here an example of, a seal family gently flowing down the river prior to channelization, fishing, swimming, collecting clams, hunting and harvesting any number of things. And that whole way of life has been essentially altered and radically changed. And so our marching orders are to bring that back however way we can. For those of you that are more technically oriented with fisheries, this comes from the Okanagan National Alliance Fisheries Department, they're fisheries biologists. So this is a representative diagram of how the land topography looked prior to our construction project. So during channelization, you can see that the dike put in here, this high triangle and a series of steps. This is to protect against 1 in 200 year floods. We're trying to undo that as much as we can in a step-by-step way. And then you can see the height of land behind the dike was prone to flooding in small areas, but essentially it was very high, and even in a 1 in 200 year flood would not get flooded. Of course, prior to the dam being put in on the lake, this structure did not exist, and the whole floodplain would have been subject to flooding. Because the water levels have dropped 3 meters since the installation of the dam, we've now had to excavate down to match the river level. So this little dotted blue line is the current water level in the Pentaton channel during the winter. So that's currently the water is down here flowing at 10 cubic meters per second. And our floodplain, the bottom of our floodplain is this green dashed marker. So currently our floodplain is largely dry. There's water in the channel and in our culvert, but it's about a couple centimeters, our floodplain is a couple centimeters higher than that lowest flow. As we move into spring freshet, the water level will rise, back flood through the culvert, and start flooding into our floodplain. We expect every 2 years to have floods that bring us up to probably 6 to 12 inches of water in our floodplain. Every 50 to 70 years, we expect higher water levels. And then, of course, in a 1 in 200 year flood, our entire floodplain basin will get flooded. So the Cowichan project offers many opportunities, not only to restore aquatic habitat, but also terrestrial habitat. And I think one of the amazing features of this Indigenous-led project is that it not only allows for seal people to be engaged in this process of healing the land, but through e-community place and the Cowichan Center and working with ONE Fisheries and Penticton Indian Band, we're really reaching out to the broader community. Essentially, anyone that will come and help us, we try to involve them in this project as a way of giving back to the land, of restoring our roles and responsibilities as human beings to be caretakers of the land. And I think for many non-Indigenous people, they really see this as an opportunity to actively contribute and participate in reconciliation. I won't belabor this particular graph. This comes out of ONE Fisheries final construction report. But essentially, this is showing the stages of the project, timelines, and objectives and tasks. So this project essentially goes back to 2012, 2013, with securement of the parcels. And once those parcels were secured, it really opened up a lot of conversation and opportunity to collaborate with the Okanagan National Lands Fisheries Department and PIB, working with the Anauken Center to see what might be possible in terms of restoring the ecosystem. So we've gone from 2012 through various stages, and now we're in the post-construction phase, which is super exciting. So rather than focusing on this, I'd like to go on to the next 3 slides, which are really summarizing the various roles and responsibilities our 3 partner organizations have had throughout this process. It really has been truly Indigenous-led by 3 Indigenous organizations, and both government level organizations, but also the Anauken Center as a charitable nonprofit society. So I work for the Anauken Center in a department called the Community Place, and our department is really about engaging everyone and anyone of all ages, of all backgrounds, whether you're a resident or a visitor, to come and learn about seal perspectives, priorities, protocols, and practices, and to try to inform what it means to be a human being living in right relationship with ourselves, our families, our communities, and the Timhulau, the spinning earth, the land, the water, and the Tamihu, all the living beings, including human beings. So we have a responsibility at all those levels, and that applies to seal people that are Indigenous to this territory. But as a guest, I also believe that, this is an important opportunity to learn about what it means for non-Indigenous people, to what are our roles and responsibilities in taking care of ourselves, our families, our communities, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous, but also the environment. And I do believe that seal people who are still connected to the land and still actively work as caretakers of the land have so much knowledge and wisdom to offer to non-Indigenous people about what our places are and how we can go about living in right relationship with the world. Sorry, I'm gonna go back there. So in terms of the Anauken Center's role and responsibilities, let me just move this. Is this blocking the presentation at all, this little screen? Okay, there we go. So we started the process with habitat securement. So we worked with Lokati landowners and the Penticton Indian Band to find some way of permanently protecting certificate of possession parcels on reserve through purchase with funding support from Environment Climate Change Canada, the South Okanagan Conservation Fund, and a number of power utility districts in the US. And that was, the securement was led by the Anauken in partnership with the band and Lokati landowners, essentially band members. But the fundraising aspect was a true collaboration between Anauken Center, Penticton Indian Band, and Okanagan National Lands Fisheries Department. So of course, this project, we were approached by Carrie Alex from the Okanagan National Lands in 2013. I remember sitting in on that meeting and Carrie asking if there might be an opportunity to restore or re-engage the historic floodplain of the river. And I just remember feeling my whole body starting to vibrate, because and to me, that was a sign that this was an important project, and I could feel that the power of that concept and that intention. And so from that place, we started our collaboration. In terms of our role, go back here a little bit. We had to take this to our board for review and approvals. We had traditional ecological knowledge coordinators and elders working at the center that provided both seal science guidance and also in terms of my role as a Western scientist, providing Western science guidance on the project. We were involved in early environmental assessments during the pre-construction phase. We were also part of site planning, so we did some of the GIS designs, which changed over time. We've also been involved in the planting plans, really reflecting the seal cultural values, but also the the local Indigenous biodiversity values. We've had a significant role in fundraising and reporting. And then our main role over the last 4 years has really been planning ahead for what species we want to reintroduce to that site, following the guidance from our knowledge keepers and elders and from the Tamif, the living beings themselves, and what their needs are. So we collaborated with students and community volunteers. We've had over 5,000 visits from people of all ages and backgrounds to come and harvest seeds at our other Lokiti land sites. They've helped us plant seeds at our greenhouse and nursery, repotted plants, and we're now at that exciting stage as of the spring of this year where we've been able to put some of those plants in the ground. So over 4 years, we've grown over 50,000 plants. So far this year, I think we've planted probably 12 to 15,000 of those plants, and we're now engaged in our fall planting as we speak. Of course, we've also been involved in community engagement at various stages. And then our main role in on-site works has been the invasive plant management, planting, mulching, watering. And through that work, we work with many students and youth in providing mentorship. And then we've also been a part of evaluation monitoring, both pre-construction, during construction and restoration, and then following the plantings and the restoration work, we'll continue to collaborate on the evaluation monitoring. In terms of the Okanagan Nation Alliance, they've had a very significant role, especially during the early days. Of course, the Chief Executive Council of ONA had to review and approve this concept and the collaboration. They were fundamental in the project concept design, providing, led from a fisheries science perspective. One of the main objectives is to restore habitat for Chinook salmon fry. That are born in the channel and need an off-channel place to find a nursery where they can find food and shelter so they can get big enough and strong enough to be able to make it to the ocean. They've been involved in the environmental assessments pre-construction, so they did flood and hydraulic modeling, soil assessments, and a variety of other assessments on the site. They've done a lot of the site planning and design. They helped assemble our steering committee, which is represented by all of our organizations, representatives from Environment Canada, Department of Fisheries and Oceans Canada, the Ministry of Forest Lands and Resource Operations, and I think Rural Development's in there as well. And then a bunch of other Okanagan Basin Water Board and many other non-government organizations and experts that are sitting on our steering committee. They led the initial engineering designs, working with our steering committee experts and community. They've done significant fundraising and reporting. ONA Fisheries has also led the permitting during the construction phase and working with the operations protocols, so developing safety plans. The environmental protection plan was funded in part by the Okanagan Basin Water Board, and construction plans. And then, of course, they oversaw the on-site construction, which was a multi-phase project that occurred over the course of a year and a half, from spring of 2020 through to the spring of 2021. They've done extensive community engagement, both on reserve and off reserve. And then, of course, they're part of evaluation monitoring, mainly focusing on the aquatic species and habitat, and how the water quality is changing over time as a result of the project. So our third collaborative partner is the Penticton Indian Band, which both Wendy Hawks and Maryssa Bonneau are here to answer questions about. Of course, this went through Chief and Council. We worked with 3 different chiefs and councils over the 10 years of the project so far to receive a review and approvals of the project all throughout the process. Because this was an Indigenous-led effort, it was vital that the Penticton Indian Band Traditional Ecological Knowledge Keepers team provide us a significant role in guiding the process and selecting the sites. The original site that ONA was targeting for the project, when we did archaeological impact assessments, came up with a number of positives. And so that was brought back to the community, and the community said, no, you can't excavate there. That's too close to a historic village site. How about you move it to this other site? And so we went through tech assessments, environmental impact assessments, and another round of archaeological impact assessments, water and soil monitoring, and found another better suitable site. So PIB's helped us with permitting, environmental monitoring, both during the pre-construction and construction phases. They continue to patrol our site through the Guardian program. And so that's really ensuring that folks that aren't supposed to be on the reserve on our site are moved along in a good way, and just making sure that everybody's safe and the Tamiko are safe as well. PIB's also helped with fundraising and reporting, significant community engagement, and of course have been increasingly a part of the on-site work. So there's a picture of Wendy and her crew been out here, especially the last couple of months, helping with invasive plant management, planting, mulching, watering, and providing significant mentorship to local youth. Getting close to the end here. So this project would only be possible through this amazing collaboration between our 3 Indigenous organizations. But of course, it's only made possible through funding and logistical and expertise support from a wide range of partners. And so we've got a growing network of funders, partners and supporters that have been helping us over the last 10 years, and we hope will continue to help us through the planting and evaluation monitoring phase. The Okanagan Basin Water Board has been there to support us through many years, through the pre-construction and assessment phases, to help us grow plants, and now to work with community to plant those plants. And very thankful to the Water Board and all the funding and support they've given us over the years. Environment Canada has been a major supporter, and many other supporters. It would take me half an hour to tell you about all the folks and people that have been helping us. If you have more questions, we encourage you to throw those to us during our panel discussions today. I'm here to represent the Nalkin. Wendy and Maryssa are here to represent Penticton Indian Band. And unfortunately, we don't have our representative from the Okanagan National Alliance Fisheries Department today, but we'll do our best to answer your questions. If you'd like more information, feel free to give us a call. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Michael. If you can stop sharing, perfect, excellent. Great, so we have a few minutes for questions, so that's excellent. And we do have 2 questions in the Q&A. One is for Michael or Wendy or Maryssa, if you'd like to answer. It's from Heather Lorette. Hi, Heather. Michael, are you planning to replicate this project elsewhere on Okanagan River or any other Okanagan streams?
I can take a quick crack at it, and maybe Maryssa or Wendy can weigh in as well. So this is part of a grander project called the Okanagan River Restoration Initiative. That's been largely led by the Okanagan National Alliance Fisheries Department over the last 20 years. And so this is one of the projects in Penticton. There have been previous projects to the south and to the north. But in terms of this particular floodplain reengagement project, this is a pilot project. And our hope is that this will inspire both communities on reserve and off reserve to see the value of bringing the river back, bringing the floodplains back, bringing the people back. And if this is successful in achieving all those objectives, we are hoping that we'll be able to expand this throughout other parts of the Penticton floodplain area. And hopefully this will inspire other projects both to the south and north of us, and possibly across the province, the nation, and possibly around the world. So
That would be great. Thank you, Michael. The next question is for Dr. Waters. Have there been goal conflicts within the Cowichan Watershed Board? And if so, how were they resolved?
So goal conflicts. So I think, yeah, the question there in terms of what we're trying to achieve, I think.
I think so. Mhm.
Yeah. Yes and no. I think that people like, so I think when the Cowichan Watershed Board was put in place, there was this, we had a number of seasons of severe drought. So people had all felt that the severe impact this would have, particularly on our salmon. And so there was particular players that were brought around the table to help support salmon. So I think that was one of the goals. But I think in seeing the interconnectedness of what supporting salmon means in all the different other facets, that it means supporting everything that's connected to salmon, which is everything else within the watershed, was not necessarily something I think the whole board felt in the same way as maybe the Indigenous members of the board initially, but we're over 10 years old now, and I can see where there's been learnings about, that interconnectedness, and that how reconciliation and, supporting Indigenous rights is so imperative to the goals that the board has. So I think it's almost become like, how well are we working as in our governance model is really one of the goals to, having a, and there will be conflicts, but the functioning of the governance model being a goal in and of itself.
Great. And I'm not sure if Wendy or Maryssa want to have an opportunity to elaborate on anything that Michael said in the last few minutes here. I just want to welcome you to unmute if you would like, and no pressure if you don't want to. We don't have any more questions in the Q&A, so I have a question myself. Go ahead, Wendy.
Hi, I just really wanted to reiterate what Michael about with the collaboration and how it reached out to the community members. I'm speaking on behalf of the restoration crew who worked tirelessly to help restore the lands that have been just decimated from different activities. A lot of these crew members are very young community members, and it's a really fantastic way to expose them to some of the different sciences that are out there, and hopefully encourage them to pursue areas that would expand their knowledge, both in terms of traditional ecological knowledge, but also educationally. And also it's in keeping with our traditional beliefs and our teachings. Our teachings tell us that it's up to us to take action and to breathe new life into those places. So as a fairly recent addition to the Penticton Indian Band Natural Resources staff, having this opportunity was huge for me. It was an area I had not been to, and I can tell you from day one, I fell in love with the place. And I could see the love that went to bringing it to that place. And I hold my hands up to Michael for the hard work that he's done. He is a deeply respected member of this community too, has indigenized, and I have a great deal of admiration for him. I know our crew expressed their just the connection that they established, and they're looking forward to the time when they became parents and could bring their children back and say, I was here and I helped. And we did some work on the land that made a huge difference. So what I really wanted to contribute is how deeply I was moved by being a part of this project, how much it meant to me as a Smelkme woman and a grandmother, and how much it means at all levels of the community, whether it be our youngest or our oldest, everything in between. It really is a fantastic project. I personally, as a nation member, would love to see all of the oxbows reconnected. Too many of these, the culturally significant and species at risk out there need that assistance. We need to help them. They've been hammered so hard. So that's all I had to say, but thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you very much, Wendy. I agree with everything you said. I had the opportunity to spend only 3 hours at the site a couple of weeks ago on a tour that Michael put together, and I really enjoyed it. It's a very special place for sure. Maryssa?
Yeah, I just like to introduce myself again. My name is Cici Matt, and that I'm going to talk about my name because it comes from the Columbia River, from one of my ancestors, Kinkanahua, the salmon chief of the Columbia. And so my name comes from the Columbia and Kettle Falls, and so water from a young age was really ingrained as a fundamental building block of life. And my name means a little spring where you get medicine from. And all the women in my family have water names. So speaking to this project, it was really an important project for me to be a part of. I started out on this project, I think early 2019, late 2018. And I think it's a really good model because it's 3 Indigenous organizations holding themselves up. I do have to disagree with something that was said earlier about local governments recognizing that they are on unceded territory. They don't, because if they did, things would be different. As a referrals coordinator, I see that every day, and I just wanted to finish this off in a good way and say that I'm thankful for the work that Michael did and Wendy did and Natasha and Carrie. And I think the way forward is to take the resourcing out of the non-Indigenous, hands and bring it into the Indigenous communities, because this project shows a testament to what we can do when we have a little resources. So I'm all about grassroots, bottom-up approach. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Maryssa. Appreciate your comments. We are at noon here, so I think that we will say goodbye and say a final thank you to our amazing panelists. I appreciate the time you took to come to this webinar, and your presentations were very interesting and informative, and I think it was a great session today. So thank you very much, and I hope to see some of you next week at our 4th webinar in our source protection webinar series. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.